In today's video, now that Hurricane Helene is practically wrapping up, we're going to get back to our normal videos going over the temperatures, the precipitation overall around the nation. We do expect massive cooldowns down the road for the eastern United States, especially the European and GFS model families are finding this, and we're going to be talking about that today. Overall storminess after Hurricane Helene is going to be on kind of a decline, which is very good news in the east. Obviously, this has been a historic hurricane as we predicted. Category 4, very strong Category 4 with devastating storm surge and flooding, not only along the coast of Florida, but also in some of the Appalachian Mountain Range like Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. Obviously, devastating for folks out there. Absolutely, I hated to hear about that this morning, so I just wanted to put that out there and say that I hope everybody is doing good and is safe. Really, just I expected it to be very bad, obviously, as you guys know, but it honestly exceeded even that, which is just super unfortunate. So let's go ahead and dive into things. We're taking a look here at the past 7 days of temperature anomalies. I do expect this to kind of decrease for some of these areas where this storm is hitting. We've mentioned this a few times, but tropical systems do bring down temperatures. So as the system moves through here, expect to see some cooler temperatures trending in over the coming days here. That is as of this morning. Obviously, you know, the storm is just arriving as of this morning, and we're going to see the kind of aftermath show up on these analysis later on in, you know, tomorrow's video. The next day we'll especially see that. Here is the month so far. You can see that we are still holding on to near normal conditions for most of these areas. There is some warmer and some cooler. So the coolest area across this September so far is along the eastern seaboard, which really we've been discussing for a while. When these areas out west were warming, we saw the East Coast still somehow holding on to these cooler temperatures. So that's a really good explanation for why that ended up occurring. As we take a look at the total snowfall over the past 30 days, this is actually relatively unchanged. We still see the Sierra Nevada with some Cascades with very minimal amounts, but there is some for mountaintop locations. And then the Rockies, where we did get a foot plus for some of these like Yellowstone areas and even for some of the mountains in Colorado. Obviously, over the coming month or two, we will see this dramatically shift. So we're going to continue to show this every single day. Here is the precipitation anomalies over the past 14 days. And as you can see, we've had a lot of activity in the east, obviously, after many storms. And we are now in the catastrophically above average category, I would say, for most of these very bright blue areas, where we're dealing with 4 to 10 inches above average or more. You can see on the bottom right corner of your screen, the maximum anywhere is 19.63 inches above average, which is absolutely crazy. Most areas average at least an inch or two for that 14-day period. So you're seeing probably like 21 total inches somewhere in the North Carolina mountains, most likely. The flooding out there is probably the worst in recorded history for them, which they've had some major flooding events throughout history. So it says a lot. Very unfortunate, and the videos coming out of there are truly terrifying if you haven't seen it. As we take a look at what is upcoming, we dive into kind of this storm that we have now overhead. It's basically post-tropical cyclone Helene basically here, and we see that there is precipitation stretching into the Midwest, obviously throughout the Ohio Valley where it's now located, and then still for the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast, there is precipitation around this afternoon. As we reach towards tomorrow afternoon on Saturday, September 28th, the good news is that this storm has died down. We see just showers kind of left over. So kind of the saving grace here, and we've mentioned this video after video after video, and I can't imagine what it would be like if this didn't happen, but this storm raced. I mean, we saw it strike land over Florida probably sometime between 11 p.m. last night and 12 a.m. And then, you know, it's already well up into the Ohio Valley by this afternoon. Imagine if this was like Harvey, you know, a storm that just stalls out, you know, near the coast, you know, and really slowly meandered its way up the Appalachian Mountain Range. We would be dealing with so many days of that heavy rainfall. It would be exponentially worse than it actually ended up being. The winds might have been a little less impactful, but the flooding is truly the story here. Something interesting that I heard is that we had hurricane force winds basically in northern Georgia And that's like so incredible if you think about it. Typically, these storms obviously die down so quickly once they've hit land. It was moving so fast that it was moving quicker than it was decelerating in intensity, and really maintained that hurricane status way to the north. So a truly devastating storm, not only for the areas directly impacted along that coast, but also these areas to the north where it was racing up northward. Truly a devastating situation. As we reach towards Sunday, we see that there is still showers here on Sunday, September 29th, around from that post-tropical cyclone. But basically, the worst of it is obviously behind us by this point. We do see some snowfall and cooler air trending for the Northwest, especially here in the Canadian side of things. For the Canadian Cascades and the Canadian Rockies, we are seeing pretty consistent snowfall by that point. As we reach towards Monday here, this will be the 30th of September. Can't believe we're already just racing through September. Speaking of racing, we still have remnant showers and thunderstorms left over from Helene by this point. We do see the jet stream is very strong out west, but ridging way above the eastern states. So we are seeing a milder pattern. I wouldn't say hot or anything, but milder throughout the east here, and overall rainy, with a violent jet stream out west racing in. So expect some windy conditions and also cooler here on the north side of this jet stream for areas throughout Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas here. Definitely on the cooler side of things. By the time we reach Tuesday, this is on its way eastward, as you can see. We have a very strong low over the Hudson Bay. You might not even be able to see it. Your jet stream is beginning to dip down for a lot of the Midwest and some of the East, still ridging for the East Coast here. So we see this warmer air racing northward. But this cooler air is on the way for a lot of the central and eastern states, as we've been predicting for probably over a week now. A positive P&A pattern, which basically just means warm out west, is trending in, and this really forces cold air eastward oftentimes, and we are seeing this kind of take effect here. That's October 1st. As we reach towards Wednesday, October 2nd, we get a very weak cold front here, as you can see, for a lot of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. So some showers, maybe some thunderstorms along that, but it is a weaker cold front. And it does bring some cooler temperatures. Nothing too significant, though. It's not going to be like frigid or anything. I want to keep that in mind for everybody. We do have a bit of a coastal low setting up as well near the East Coast. Could bring a little bit more intensity, a little more oomph to that storm, if you will. As we reach towards Thursday here on October 3rd, look at how zonal this is, and what that means is flat, really, with this jet stream. We are seeing almost directly west to east with that jet stream. Your southern jet is nowhere to be seen, so we're dealing with near normal conditions throughout the entire United States, if not maybe a little warmer than normal with that Pacific air racing across the nation. By Friday afternoon, we do see a little bit of a ridge developing out west. Again, signs of that positive P&A, and that causes this little bit of an imbalance where we see cooler air slowly but surely trying to make its way towards the north, central, and northeastern states there on Friday the 4th. Here is Saturday the 5th, and we get a little bit of a northeast trough with some storminess here as well around for eastern Canada, the northeastern states, and then along the Gulf. Moisture is on its way. There is some model guidance. The European model is probably the most against this, but we do have models suggesting a tropical cyclone could be on the way to the Gulf states once more, which would be obviously terrible news. The European model really keeps that energy far south and doesn't develop it, but I want you guys to remember that that's exactly what this same European model did with Helene, and we obviously know that did not happen at all. So we're going to take it with a grain of salt in that more conservative outlook. There is some more aggressive models that succeeded with Helene, and that could be the case. Either way, we're going to keep our options open, obviously, but this model is being a little bit slower to develop anything out there, as it has been, and it's wrongfully been doing that. So we'll check it out. But positive P&A still trending in. A little bit of a descending trough into the east here, but again, nothing too significant. It's still pretty mild. Just some relatively cooler air moving in, but we don't see anything too huge on this particular model run. We will look at some stuff later on that is a lot more significant. Here's what's left and expected from Helene. Again, the showers are going to trend in for a few days, so we still have inches and inches left to go for some areas. Thankfully, like North Carolina and Tennessee, most of it is said and done. For areas in the Ohio Valley and up into the Mid-Atlantic, a little bit more is on the way, potentially 2 to 5 inches of rainfall still on the way for some folks. So still, the storm is going to bring some impacts, especially today into tonight, before it starts to die down. The Gulf Coast, again, activity will be on the increase again, and we could see more rainfall on the way. Thankfully, these guys didn't see as much rainfall-based flooding, so it wouldn't be as devastating as it would be for the Appalachian Mountain Range at this point. I don't think anybody needs it, though, really, at this point. We do see total snowfall is almost non-existent for the entire United States. I'd say the northern Cascades, we maybe get a dusting, if anything, maybe a couple of inches. And then maybe something here for the Sierra Nevada, like maybe a dusting. So a little slower. That's probably due to the ridge basically standing still over the west. When you have warmer, drier conditions trending in for, 10 plus days, you expect snowless conditions for 10 plus days out here. And that's what we see in this instance. So we've kind of regressed back to no snow expected over the upcoming pattern. Here's the anomaly. So really below average for most of the central and western states here. Almost the opposite of what we saw a few weeks ago. And we do have these areas still expecting above average amounts over the next 15 days due to Helene. And we do see, obviously, for the southeast, if we do see this Gulf system try to move through, we could see some above average precipitation from this. Keep in mind, this is the European ensemble model, which is a little different. And this one has a lot more of this activity tracking towards Florida and off the southeast. So even its ensemble model doesn't agree with the deterministic model, the normal European model. That's usually a bad sign for its accuracy, but not always. As we take a look at the temperature pattern, we're using another European model, the European AI model. This one actually agrees quite well with the European ensemble model, except the European ensemble model, it's harder to see down the road because it gets averaged out. This one doesn't have that problem. So here's that October 1st, 2nd, 3rd cool down. Again, the northern states really cashing in on some cooler air for a few days there in the first week. Doesn't make its way into the south. We do get a warm up here in between, but look at this, a much bigger cool down at some point approaching the 10th. Here's the 8th, 9th, 10th. And I do buy into this, and the reason being is because we consistently have the model showing this warmth out west, and almost every time that happens, we do see some sort of cool down move into the east. In this case, it's a pretty significant Arctic blast sometime between the 7th and the 10th of October here. We will be watching for that, of course. We actually get another here as well, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, as we're approaching the 13th here. So another pretty strong Arctic blast. This could be a sign of a much cooler pattern on the way for the early to midpoint of October. And we have warmer temperatures really prevailing out west, which would consistently allow for those types of opportunities to take place. As we take a look at our long-range guidance, we're also going to get some agreement here. This is the 28th through the 3rd of October, pretty mild for most areas. Here's the 3rd through the 8th, again, kind of getting that first initial cool down in there for the north, and then that second more significant one for the 7th, 8th time frame there. Here is the 8th through the 13th. We get more cooler air in the east. And then here's the 13th through the 18th, get a little bit more mild again, except for the east coast and the west coast, which we have seen a lot of. Really nothing in the way of major cooldowns after that point. A lot more averaged out looking, and nothing too consistent as far as a trough or ridge anywhere. So we're going to take that with a grain of salt beyond that kind of mid-October time frame. Here's the next 30 days overall on this model, and you can see cooler in the east is the trend here. Warmer in the west is also the trend. So take it with a grain of salt. It is a long-range model guidance, but we do see other models agreeing with this that we looked at today. So it is something we're going to continuously be tracking and watching for here. As we take a look at the overall tropics, outside of Helene, it's also very active out there. We have Hurricane Isaac up there in the North Atlantic. Keep in mind that one is headed more towards Europe, so basically a non-threat for the United States. We do have Tropical Storm Joyce out there in the middle of what we call our MDR, which is short for Main Development Region, so that is going to be potentially something to watch. The main concern here to me is this area over the southern Caribbean and into the Gulf. We do have a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours. But a 30% chance over the next 7 days, and this is definitely the most concerning one for the United States, without a doubt. If this one was to develop, it could pose another threat to the Gulf, which, as you know, is very sufficient for rapid development, and especially, right after hurricanes, typically that potential is eaten up by the storm. But this one, unfortunately, gives it enough time to kind of regather that intensity, regather that heat. And this could move back into those favorable waters if given enough time. So this is definitely a threat, something that we're watching closely. We also have another yellow area here. Same thing, 0% chance over the next 48 hours. And then a 30% chance over the next 7 days there, headed right towards where Joyce is. This one, if it posed any threat to the United States or North America for that matter at all, would be, 2 weeks out or so. So not a significant risk at this point, at least not anytime soon. As we take a look at some of these cone forecasts, here is Tropical Storm Joyce, thankfully expected to remain at just tropical storm status and also curve to kind of like the northeast, which is a good sign for North America there. And then here is Hurricane Isaac, which again is headed more towards Europe, actually more towards like Iceland at this point, kind of remaining at hurricane status until about Monday timeframe before reaching kind of post-tropical storm status and remaining that way. So it might hit Iceland or something like that as a weaker non-tropical system. It might be a stronger storm, but not going to have that tropical component, obviously, by the time it reaches up there. So some more good news here on this cone forecast as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. We will keep you guys up to date with everything regarding the tropics, the temperatures, the storms, obviously for years to come. So be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.